Good morning, dear colleagues. The question is, do you have the earphones in order to be able to listen to the translation? please be invited to the A1 hall for the Belarusian-Indian Pharmaceutical Forum. Поговори немножко, да? Отлично. Ladies and gentlemen, please be invited to the Belarusian-Indian Pharmaceutical Forum, which takes place in A1 Conference Hall. Thank you. Good morning, dear colleagues. I hope that everyone who intended to attend has already taken his or her place. We still have the vacancies here. I'm happy to welcome you at the Belarusian-Indian Pharmaceutical Forum. The hosts for this forum will be Belfarmprom holding company and technical communications on the Belarusian part, as well as we have Indian hosts, which is the Council on Registration of Pharmaceuticals from India, Pharmacim. I would like to thank the organizers, and I believe that we'll have fruitful results. My name is Natalia. I will be the moderator for this event, and I represent Belfarmprom holding company. If you have any questions during the forum, don't hesitate to approach myself, and I will try to be as helpful as possible. At the entrance, we have got the representatives of the company, which is Vyacheslav and Karina. They keep on registering the participants, so you can ask your questions to them as well. The program of the forum will be divided into two parts. The first part of the agenda foresees the speakers making their presentations and discussions. After business lunch, there will be forum continuation in B2B format, and you will get an opportunity of asking your questions to the speakers. Therefore, if all of a sudden you, due to some reasons, you fail with your chance of asking questions, you will have this chance after lunch in the afternoon. And I would like to invite to the panel our guests. They are the Deputy Minister of Health of Belarus, Mr. Boris Androsyuk. Your Excellency, please take your seat. Ambassador Plenipotentiary and Extraordinary of India to Belarus, Mr. Alok Ranjan Jha. You're welcome, sir. First Deputy of the Director General of the Pharmaceutical Holdings Company, Belpharmprom, Mr. Pyotr Vorobyov. Director on Regulatory Affairs of the Pharmaceutical Export Promotion Council of India Pharma Excel, Ms. Lakshmi Prasanna. And Deputy Head of the Directorate for Asia, Australia and Oceania of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Belarus, Mr. Vadim Sinyuta. The opportunity of launching the forum will be given to our honorable guests. The first will be the Deputy Minister of Health of Belarus, Mr. Boris Androsyuk. Thank you. Good morning, dear colleagues. I believe you can hear me loud and clear. It's my pleasure to welcome you at the launching of the Belarusian-Indian Pharmaceutical Forum. On behalf of the Minister, I would like to say hello to the participants because this is the good opportunity, good prospects. During this event, you will have the chance of listening to the presentations on many issues of circulation of pharmaceuticals in Belarus. Experts from the Ministry of and Testing Center of the National Agency for Privatization and Agency of Foreign Activities will attend as well. I'm sure that this will be a helping hand in establishing good contacts between Indian and Belarusian pharmaceutical companies, and they will be helpful in launching new Indian Belarusian projects in public health and pharmaceutical production. This forum is within the scope of the public health exhibition in Belarus. And if I'm not mistaken, it's the 28th exhibition. This is the good platform for demonstrating the state-of-the-art developments and get a good chance of meetings between partners and manufacturers, talking to the administrators and all the stakeholders. I invite Indian guests to visit the stands in order to familiarize with the achievements of the Belarusian public health. Here are the achievements of the domestic producers, manufacturers of pharmaceuticals and equipment, and here you can establish the good contacts and be aware of the range of products produced in Belarus. Let me wish you much success and much success to all of you. Thank you, Deputy Minister. Now the floor is given to the Ambassador Extraordinary and Plenipotentiary of India in Belarus, Mr. Alok Ranjan Jha. Доброе утро всем. Большое спасибо за то, что меня пригласили. Как я понимаю, это самый крупный форум. И, наверное, некоторые из вас намерены здесь наладить встречи.
Let me just start by thanking the organizers of this forum, the 28th International Medical Forum of Belarus. For us, it's extremely important to be part of this, not only because we are a significant significant global power as far as pharmaceutical is concerned, but also because Belarus, for us, is more than just a market. It's a country where our people have been interacting for decades now. From the Soviet times, we have a large number of medical students who have studied here, who are still studying here. And there is a certain amount of goodwill for each other, which I think is extremely important when it comes to business. Among all the other elements that run a business, goodwill amongst people probably rates highest. So while I'll not bore you with statistics, but some numbers are in order. So it's not for no reason that we are known as pharmacy of the world. In terms of volume, we are the third largest producer. We are the largest supplier of generic medicines. We are also among the first 15 in terms of volume. So if you, in terms of value. So if you look at the fact that we are number 3 in volume and number maybe 14 in value, signifies the fact that our medicines are much cheaper than what you will find of the same quality anywhere else. Apart from that, there is a tremendous focus in the recent past on pharmaceutical industry. So although the industry today is worth around $50 billion, it's expected to reach 130 billion in 2030. But please understand that as part of the global pharmaceutical market, it's still very small. The global pharmaceutical market will cross $1 trillion this year itself. So what I'm trying to say is that despite being a major player, there is tremendous scope for enhancement of this industry. And I would invite my friends, our colleagues from Belarus to be part of this development journey which India is undertaking in pretty much every field, but more so in pharmaceuticals. I would also urge our Indian friends here who have traveled all the way from India. I'll urge two things. Don't judge Belarus simply by its size. Sometimes coming from a country of 1.4 billion people, you tend to be little complacent about the fact that there are only 9.5 million people here. But Belarus is very well located, strategically very well located. It's a gateway to larger Europe. It's a gateway to Eurasian Economic Union, of which it's a member. So take that into account. And second thing I want to say is don't judge the place by the current set of difficulties. Let's accept it. There are certain difficulties at the moment, things which are not in our control, but those difficulties won't last forever. Take this opportunity, take this time to build up your networks or your connections or your bonds. These bonds, these networks, these connections will far outlast whatever little difficulties that the world in this part of the world might be going through. So once again, let me thank the organizers and welcome the Indian participants, especially Pharmexil. And I'm sure my colleague from Pharmexil will tell you more about the Indian pharma industry. Thank you and all the very best.
Thank you, Your Excellency, for an honor and for your personal participation at this venue. And now the floor is given to the representative of the organizers for this venue, Director of the Regulatory Affairs of the Pharmaceutical Export, to Mr. Petr Vorobyov, Chief Officer of the Pharmaceutical Holding Company. Good morning, dear colleagues, future partners, and I hope for that very much. It's my pleasure to welcome you at the Belarusian-Indian Forum. This is the first time that it takes such a big scale, and I don't think that this is the last chance. It will be a good springboard for the next beneficial relations in future. And let me express the gratitude to Ministry of Public Health of Belarus for the chance of allowing this forum within the exhibition. My profound gratitude is to Pharmexil company, they organized coming of many Indian businessmen to here. And let me state that India for Belarus is a very reliable partner in many sectors. And I mean the supplies, investments, and many other items. However, this forum and this platform will be very good for the cooperational collaboration. We are much interested to have a profound collaboration with Indian companies on dissemination of the new pharmaceuticals. While preparing the forum, we have paid much attention to the demands and wishes of the Indian colleagues. We have tried to acknowledge that, and I hope that the result will be very successful. Let me say that the holding in Belarus means almost 60% of our output, and it is open for the collaboration with Indian partners, and I believe it will be demonstrated not only today, but throughout the entire period. Thank you very much once again. Thank you for your attention. Thank you, Peter. We endorse what you have said, and now the floor will be given to the co-organizers of the forum on the Indian part, Director on Regulatory Affairs of the Pharmaceutical Expert Promotional Council of India, Pharmaceuticals, Ms. Lakshmi Prasanna.
Good morning, everyone. Distinguished dignitaries on the dais, His Excellency Mr. Boris, Deputy Minister, His Excellency Mr. Alok Ranjanja, Ambassador of India to Belarus, Mr. Peter, the Chief Visionary Officer of the Belfarm-Prom, and Mr. Vadim, Deputy Head from the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, and all the esteemed panelists and the business representatives joining both from India and Belarus. Firstly, a warm welcome you all for today's forum, which is being hosted by Pharmaceuticals in association with Belfarm-Prom. And it's our great pleasure to partner with Belfarm-Prom for today's forum. And I must say that the visit of the Deputy Foreign Minister of Belarus to India has given a stepping stone and the foundation for the idea of hosting the India-Belarus Pharma Forum, which is further succeeded by the delegation of Belfarm-Prom to India in the last December. That's where the idea of hosting this program has begun, and a lot of thought process has gone into that idea, and we have got an extremely tremendous support from Belfarm-Prom for the India Pavilion in this exhibition and also for the Pharma Forum, with the active participation of almost 19 Indian pharmaceutical companies, apart from those other Indian companies having their strong presence in the Belarus. I believe it could not be a better time than this to have a stronger and deeper collaboration between the institutions from both India and Belarus. And I must say that there are a couple of things that the COVID-19 has illustrated quite starkly. Number one, the income inequalities among the population and the vulnerability for the access of the medications. And number two, the supply chain disruptions, especially for the essential medications. These two are the factors which has really driven the global policy makers, not just India and Belarus. At this juncture, the value proposition that the Indian pharma industry has made to the world is very tremendous, with its medical supplies to more than 150 countries during last couple of years. And I'm also proud to mention that COVID has given an opportunity for Indian pharma industry to prove the world that we are not just the producers of the generic medications and the APIs. We are equally strong in the research and collaboration, which is evident from the fact that the indigenous COVID vaccine has been developed by the Indian institutions on par with the Western nations. And as Excellency has mentioned, the government of India has taken an initiative called Vaccine Maitri to help the other nations who were deprived of vaccinating their population, and India has supplied almost 298 million doses of vaccines to more than 100 countries. So coming to the second issue of the supply chain vulnerability, especially in APIs and raw materials, which is the major focus of collaboration between India and Belarus also, is that the Indian industry is one of the largest suppliers of APIs to the world, and the policy measures of the government in the recent past, especially after COVID, in terms of bulk drug parks and also the production-linked incentive schemes, has really encourage the Indian pharma industry to propel in the API space. And that's the area of focus which we wanted to engage more and more with the Belarus institutions, apart from the technology collaboration that the Belarus institutions are looking for. And just to give you some facts and figures, so we are almost exporting for $4.5 billion of APIs, apart from the captive consumption of API going into the finished formulations that the Indian industry is about $50 billion. And I also must admit the fact that the foundation for the Indian pharma industry, be it into API or generics, is with the kind support of the Soviet Union back in the days of 1960. With the support of USSR, the Indian Pharmaceutical IDPL, that is Indian Drugs and Pharmaceutical Limited, state holding company was established. So that's the first Indian pharma industry with which the pharma industry has established its presence, and many more private entrepreneurs have emerged from the IDPL. So today we got this opportunity to resonate the great support that we have received from the USSR, and we would be so glad to collaborate with the Belarus and Bel Pharma Prom and all the stakeholders in strategic engagements and to meet their sourcing requirements of APIs, and also for the strategic engagements in the technological collaborations and to strengthen their local manufacturing capacity, which is a win-win situation both for the Indian institutions and the Belarus institutions. With that note, I once again extend our sincere thanks to Belfarm Prom and the Indian mission and all the business delegates who have traveled from India, and also the business delegates from Belarus for joining us. And we wish that today's forum and the business engagements, the B2B meetings planned after the forum, are going to be a grateful and successful event for the progress of our bilateral relations. Thank you so much for your attention.
Thank you, Ms. Lakshmi Prasanna, for your time, for your personal attendance of this forum, and the preparatory work you did to prepare this forum. Thank you. And now, the welcoming will be done by the Deputy Head of the Directorate for Asia, Australia and Oceania, Ministry of Foreign Affairs of the Republic of Belarus, Mr. Vadim Sinyuta. Dear Boris, Pyotr, Mr. Ambassador, Alok Ranjan Jha, Ms. Lakshmi Prasanna, the head of the Indian delegation, head of Pharmaceuticals, exhibitors, ladies and gentlemen, I'm very glad to welcome you on the opening of this Belarusian-Indian Pharmaceutical Forum suggested last August, and I'm very pleased that the initiative has been implemented despite the substantial distance between our countries. Belarus views full-fledged development of cooperation with India as one of the priorities of its foreign policy and economic activities. The success of our cooperation builds on trust, friendly relations, and mutual benefits provided by our economies. Cooperation of our economy follows the same principles, our eagerness to achieve the same objectives for the well-being of our citizens, and simplification of relations in all the aspects. Belarus knows quite well about the successes of India in pharmaceutical sector and medicine reached by our reliable partner from India. Our countries for a long time have been cooperating in pharmaceutical sector in terms of mutual trade and implementation of 4 joint projects in Belarus in the production of medicines. And the Academ Farm by the National Academy of Sciences of Belarus, this project is quite important. It is implemented by Cipla Limited. This project provides for the establishment of the state-of-art pharmaceutical center, and this scientific and production sector with modern technologies and equipment from India is expected to start its work at the end of this year. We value the assistance of India in the provision of vaccines to treat people affected by COVID 19 in 2020-2022, and we're really pleased with the volumes of the provision of high-quality pharmaceutical products supplied by India. In 2021-2022, accordingly, the imports from India to Belarus was about $53 million annually. And it's natural that everything mentioned above is not enough in view of the availability of world-class production companies in India, enjoying cutting-edge technologies and everything needed to implement projects. We know about the interests of both the parties in the development of such projects as the production and development of medicines and pharmaceutical products. And thanks to this Belarusian-Indian forum organized by Belfarmprom, Pharmexil and others, the representatives of healthcare authorities and businesses of both the countries will be able to build on the potential of cooperation in this area. We are ready to offer to Indian companies new beneficial investment terms and conditions to establish companies in pharmacy and medical equipment production. And the ideal site is Special Economic Zone, ORSHA. It is viewed as an Indian hub, and the ready-made products could be marketed both in Belarus and in Eurasian Economic Union. We should take all the efforts to speed up the cooperation and diversify our trade and sales to see quite soon both the tangible results of our project implementation. I'm sure that pharmacy could become one of the main driver of trade and economic and investment cooperation of Belarus and India. Belarusian party is open to the intensive cooperation with Indian counterpart, and I'm sure that there will be long-term cooperation potential for the health of our citizens and the prosperity of both the countries. I wish you all sincerely, dear participants of this forum, a very constructive and productive negotiations and cooperation, development of your plans, and all the success in your work. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Vadim. And now there is the opportunity of exchanging the souvenirs, and the chance will be given to the Indian party, the Council on Promoting Export of Pharmaceuticals. Lakshmi Prasanna, this is your chance. The opportunity of exchanging the souvenirs will be given to Deputy Minister of Public Health of Belarus, Mr. Andrasyuk, and the first Deputy Director of the holdings company, Mr. Petr Vorobyov. All right. I think that the forum is now considered open. Let me thank Boris for his participation. He has to leave, but we'll continue. Now the floor will be given to the head of Drug Supply Office of the Ministry of Health of Belarus, to Mr. Anton Kuhach. Anton, please. Good morning, dear colleagues. Thank you very much, and I am thanking the hosts for the opportunity of making my presentation. Exchange of information and the feedback are very useful for making well-balanced and necessary decisions for both the parties and for all the stakeholders. Generally, and it is quite clear that one of the key aspects which the Ministry of Health is facing is providing of good access to pharmaceuticals, both physical access and price access, since recently, in my opinion, we have seen the fact that the system was quite well functioning. However, I like the fact by Toyota Kaizen system, this is the permanent perfection. That is exactly what we have been doing. We are drafting regulatory tools, we are communicating, we are analyzing the outcomes, and we try to find the bottlenecks in order to move forward smoothly and quickly, strategically considering all the issues. Given that my presentation will be about the regulations. Firstly, let me tell you about the two documents which have been in progress in Belarus. Firstly, this is the registration of pharmaceuticals. This will be the resolution by the government, which has already been drafted, and I hope that in the next 1 or 2 weeks it will materialize. It relates to the last year innovations on strategically important pharmaceuticals. Please be reminded that by this resolution we have established an option, we have retained an opportunity for the claimants and for the companies to select the procedure of registering the pharmaceuticals in Belarus, whether national or Eurasian Union procedure. According to the practice of implementation, that was the right thing to do, because there have been the demand for both the procedures. On Monday, we have made the comparisons, and while registering the new pharmaceuticals on Eurasian procedures, 68 items, and for national 69. As you see, there will be an opportunity, and the minister likes saying this, the opportunity of opening the windows of opportunities. The companies have already taken their chance. We are happy to state this, because any new player, any new item will mean either better competition or establishing the niche in good access to the pharmaceuticals for our citizens. The details will be given my colleague. And the innovations which we'll hear about today will be the expansion of the list of the countries which will which will use the simplified procedures. And conventionally, the registration procedure will mean application of the procedures not only for the basics but for the stimulants as well. The second package is prices, of course. This is very important for the budget and for the households. Previously, we have earned experience in reference pricing, but COVID has frozen that process, but we are lucky that the process has stabilized and the registration of prices by manufacturers will be reopened. However, it will be renewed with substantial changes. We have got time to analyze on iteration of the topic, and this time we have taken the route of giving more authority to the government, which will mean more flexible mechanism. Consequently, the government will decide on the list of pharmaceuticals, and the draft of the government draft resolution has already been drafted, but it is not yet promoted as the first one. It has been consented with the stakeholders. This time, we will suggest the list of pharmaceuticals which, if I may say so, are quite compatible and competitive, that will be the fewer risks as far as access is concerned. But on the other hand, we'll decide on the mechanisms of pricing mechanism for these pharmaceuticals to be adequate and affordable by the households and companies. The list is not that long. We believe it is optimal in our view, but we'll polish it further on, and I believe that everything will be consented with a presidential decree beginning from the 14th of July this year. These are two most important issues which have been working on. The third package, if I may say so, presumes our work for the future because we have been waiting for the basic documents, and now I'm talking about the public procurement. The Ministry of Health introduced amending the current law. Presently the Parliament is debating on it. As anticipated, the government will be entitled to decide on extra procedures for public procurement, which is very important for the public health and for pharmaceuticals in particular. Inter alia, there will be the introduction of the mechanism of such a mechanism as e-trading, not for one calendar year, not for the demand, for the annual demand, but for the 3-year period. We believe that this will provoke interest on behalf of the companies, because that has been one of the elements which in many talks has been stated by many companies, which they recommended to the Ministry of Public Health to implement. We have our ears open to our colleagues, and we have taken this way. Another development will be marking and identifying the pharmaceuticals and medicals. I may say that the conventional name is the motion or circulations of pharmaceuticals. We haven't yet got the name. We are just in the process of development. We're in the process of generating. As anticipated, there will be the pilot project. We are at the very beginning, and we are generating the lists and the procedures and rules for the pilot, the participants and so on. Now I may say that the ministry will develop the short list or the preliminary list of the participants and of the items, and upon the prerequisites which will develop with the Ministry of Taxation and the operation of marking. When meeting these requirements, any participant, whether Belarusian or foreign, manufacturer or distributor or a pharmacy, will be able to participate through approaching the Ministry of Health, or we haven't yet decided on that, whether to us or to the operators. But anyway, we'll be happy to any participants and the bidders for the pilot, for us to do the things properly and for the benefit of all the stakeholders. All right, and that's all that I was going to tell you about the regulatory initiatives of the Ministry of Public Health, at least of my structural divisions we have the chance of heading. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Anton. Do we have questions from the audience? If not, then let's continue. Anton, thanks a lot. And now the floor goes to the Director Regulatory Affairs of the Pharmaceutical Expert Promotion Council of India, Pharmaceuticals, Ms. Lakshmi Prasanna. You're welcome.
Thank you.
Благодарю.
Once again, I am privileged to have this opportunity to talk about the potential collaborations between India and Belarus, especially in the pharmaceutical sector. And I request to put up the slide, please. So, and before I'm jumping into the main topic of the potential collaboration, I would like to brief about Pharmexil for the interest of the Belarus participants who are joining today's program. So Pharmaceuticals Export Promotion Council of India is an agency set up by the Ministry of Commerce with an intent to promote the exports of pharma and allied products, meaning formulations, APIs, vaccines, and even the complementary medications and the pharma-related services, such as contract manufacturing and CDMO as well. So that's a major objective, and as on date, we have almost 4,200 member companies under Pharmexil, and half of which are into manufacturing of the various dosage forms and various kinds of products, and the 50% of the members are into the trading into the international market. And a brief gist about the Indian pharma industry, and I'm sure many of the points have already been touched by the Excellency in his opening remarks. And so just to give you a brief snapshot, so India is the leading supplier of the generics to the world, and there are about 200 countries are sourcing the generic medications from the Indian pharmaceutical industry. And the Indian companies have emerged as the global players, and you could see the graphic showing the top Indian companies featuring among the global generic medications. There are about 9 companies features among top 25 global generics, and many of them are already having their strong operations in Belarus, be it Dr. Reddy's, Cipla, Sun Pharma, and so on and so forth. And as I mentioned, we are not only strong enough in the generic space, but we are equally competent enough to supply the active pharma ingredients, which I have already mentioned, and also in the vaccine space. Indian industry has emerged as a leading supplier of the vaccines to the global institutions like World Health Organization, wherein we are almost supplying 60% of the WHO pre-qualified APIs, and also the vaccines being sourced by the World Health Organization. So the strength of the Indian industry for these achievements is majorly relying on the compatibility and the compliance to the international regulatory norms on one hand, and the other hand, the affordability and the cost competitiveness of the generics being supplied by the Indian institutions. This is very much evident from the fact that India hosts highest number of US FDA approved facilities outside the borders of United States, and as of April 2023, 703 manufacturing sites in India have got the accreditations from the United States FDA. Likewise, even from the EU GMP, there are about 386 Indian companies got the accreditations. And in terms of our footprint in the global world, so we are exporting almost 50% of our entire production to the world, and our exports were to the tune of 25.4 billion US dollars. And CIS is one of the major emerging market for the Indian pharmaceuticals, and the more and more emphasis has been given by the Indian institutions to make their strong foothold in the entire region, including Russia and Belarus and many other countries. And you could see the growth journey of the Indian pharma industry, which has almost got doubled in the last 10 years, and now it is featuring at around $25.4 billion. And just to give you a global presence about the Indian industry and the Indian pharmaceuticals, so the top 10 markets of destinations for the Indian pharmaceuticals are with USA and Belgium, and it as with the Nigeria. And if you could see these top 10, except Nigeria, the rest of the 9 destinations are with the high regulated market nature. And it clearly indicates the quality competitiveness of the Indian pharmaceuticals. And coming back to the Belarus pharma market, we were trying to understand the position of the market and the kind of opportunities available for the Indian institutions. And of course, the market size is being limited by the small population, but there are many opportunities available for the Indian institutions, as pointed out by the Excellency. Because of its geographical location, it is one of the prime factors for attracting investments from the Indian institutions. And a significant point to note is that the major share of the market is being dominated by the generics, which is a opportunistic factor for Indian institutions, and the market is the generic market has a share of 53%, and the OTC also has a significant share of 36%. So unlike many of the other countries having a larger share of patented medications, so the Belarus market is giving opportunities both in the generics and OTC for the Indian companies to collaborate. And they're largely, relatively importing majority of the requirements of their pharmaceutical needs, though they have a strong manufacturing capabilities under the holding company of Belfarm Pro. And as per our analysis, we understood they're importing almost $912 million in the last financial year. But the share of the Indian institutions is very meager to an extent of 50 million. And if we are trying to compare the export status from the data available at Indian site, it is showing only 20 million. But as far as the UN Comtrade data, it is showing 50 million. Then we've realized these exports are happening through a third country instead of direct exports to the Belarus through because of some logistical constraints or other issues and all. So currently, formulations has a major share and the bulk drugs has a very limited share in terms of our overall exports. And there is a significant opportunity to penetrate more in the API space to meet the requirements of the production capacities of the local institutions. And so the significant number of Indian companies have their presence in the Belarus, and I'm trying to give a snapshot on the kind of the joint ventures or the offices of the various Indian companies here. So as already being mentioned by the Deputy Director of Minister of Foreign Affairs, so CIPLA has set up R&D center which is going to start their operations at the end of the financial year, and it is opening an opportunity for other companies to make their investments and to start their production capacities here. And likewise, the Lok Beta is another company established joint venture, likewise NATCO and BDR and Pharmaceuticals. So these are the few examples from the Indian institutions having invested a significant amount to tap the opportunities available here and also in the region. And the companies like Dr. Reddy's, Sun Pharma and Hetero and many other having their representative office here are actively contributing for the growth of the industry. So what are the major potential collaboration areas that Indian companies and the Belarus companies could look at it is that obviously the prime focus would be on the raw materials and APIs as being pointed out by the Belfarm team in the morning session. But apart from that, there are many other areas that the institutions can collaborate, be it the technology transfer for some of the niche products, be it oncology or immunotherapeutic categories or even hormonal categories. So those are the major prime categories that I understood from the Belfarm that they are looking to expand and seek the support from the Indian institutions. And also in the biotechnology space, where India is one of the leader having the presence of a global presence by Biocon. So we are equally strong in the biotech space, and that's another area that the Indian companies could potentially look at into the opportunities with these companies. And apart from that, we also would like to collaborate in terms of the regulatory convergence. That's one of the key area where any Indian, be it Indian or Belarusian pharmaceutical company wanted to penetrate into the market. The convergence among the regulations are very much required for the easier and fast-track registrations for any project. And we urge and we take this opportunity of this forum to make a possible collaboration with the regulators, both from the India side and the Belarus as well. So that would really create a facilitated access for the pharmaceuticals. So with that, I also would like to extend an open invitation for the participants from the Belarus to join the exhibition being hosted by Pharmexcel called IFEX. That's an international exhibition that we are hosting during 5th to 7th of July. And there are about 350 Indian companies are showcasing their products and categories and the services that they are offering. And Pharmexcel is also hosting the buyers from across the world, and we are expecting and we are sponsoring the airfare and accommodation for the business delegates and the potential stakeholders from more than 120 countries. And we would like to urge the Belfarm and also the officials from the Belarus and the business stakeholders to kindly join this exhibition and experience the state-of-the-art facilities of the Indian companies and the kind of regulations that the Indian institutions are following, and also the kind of solutions that they could offer to the requirements of the Belarus. So with that, I once again take this opportunity to thank the Belfarm for hosting this program. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Ms. Lakshmi Prasanna. Are there any questions? If no, then we'll continue. And now the information will be given on one of the most common questions with the Indian partners will be given to the consultant or the pharmaceutical inspection or the department in the Ministry of Health of the Republic of Belarus. Ms. Sidko Tatiana. Tatiana, the floor is yours. Good morning, dear participants. Good morning, our esteemed panelists. To your attention, I will be presenting some issues on inspecting pharmaceutical manufacturing when registrating pharmaceuticals in Belarus. The topic is broad enough, but given that I'm limited in time, I will try to focus only on key aspects. In December 2014, the treaty was signed on single principles on circulations of medicine within the Eurasian Union. That provided collaboration between the regulators in the Eurasian Union. The objective of such a collaboration will be the establishment of the common market of medicines based on single requirements to them, on registration of pharmaceuticals, organizing and holding inspections and other aspects which will be helpful for the proper provision of quality and safety of pharmaceuticals. At this slide, you see the main references to the regulatory instruments of the Eurasian Union. Presently, they regulate inspections of pharmaceutical manufacturing. At this slide, you see the review of the most common issues and those on which I will focus in my presentation. Currently, the registration, the confirmation of registration, re-registration and amending the dossier and the expertise of medicines is carried out by the regulators of the member countries of the Eurasian Union. Belarus is one of them, and the decision is based on the decision is 172 of the Eurasian Committee. Based on this document, there is the mandatory requirement and document for the manufacturer confirming the compliance of his or her manufacturer for the pharmaceuticals and their compliance with the rules and best practices in the Eurasian Union. In other words, the certificates GMPA. At the same time, in compliance with the decision of the Eurasian Economic Commission number 93 up to the 31st of December 2025, the authorities of the Union, when re-registering and amending the regulatory dossier for the pharmaceuticals, will mutually recognize GMP requirements issued by the member countries of the Eurasian Union in accordance with their national legislation. For the medicines manufactured in the same countries, there may be the national certificates as well. The rules of registration and expertise due diligence for the medical application approved by the decision of the Commission number 78, the necessity of extraordinary inspections is set by the authority of the reference country within the process. The procedure of registration of the medicines produced on the platforms of the manufacturers not subject to inspecting by the authority of at least one member country of the Eurasian Union. In the process of putting into compliance with the requirements for the pharmaceuticals which previously have been registered in the member countries in case of specifying the platform which has not been the subject of inspecting by one of the member countries of the Eurasian Economic Union. Considering the the documents by the applicant based on potential risk for the quality of pharmaceutical and the substance, and in the process of expertise of pharmaceuticals on subject of meeting the laboratory requirements of the Union when considering preclinical tests as to safety of pharmaceuticals, shall be carried by the countries which are not members of the Eurasian Economic Union. At this very slide and on the next two slides, you may find the informational table which reflects the key aspects of holding pharmaceutical inspections organized by the regulators of Belarus according to the schedule. Such inspections take place due to the annual plan on Pharmaceutical Inspectorate of the Ministry of Health of Belarus. This plan is in free access on the site of the Ministry of Public Health, and you can familiarize yourself with it. The reason for a reinspection shall be the application on inspecting and also the package of documents which is stipulated by the item 8 or the decision of the EEC 83. Scheduled inspections are endorsed by the order of the Ministry of Health and the opinion expressed by the expert organization, which in this country is the one proprietary center of expertise. There are also items in the table for the Eurasian Union, column 4, and due to these rules, the pharmaceutical inspections takes place. The documents issued by the manufacturer, column number 5, based on the results of the inspection, and the key document is the report on inspection. In case of compliance to the requirements and the best practices of the Eurasian Union, the certificate will be issued, certificate GMPS. At the next two slides, you will see the information on reflecting key aspects of pharmaceutical inspections organized according to the extraordinary requirements. Extraordinary inspections is carried out by the Inspectorate of the Ministry of Health of Belarus in compliance with an order by the Minister and based on the due diligence and the opinion issued by the Center of Testing in Public Health. The reason for an inspection will be the application, and the exclusion is the inspection carried out when reflecting low quality medicines against the information presented by the state organization in the sphere of public control and supervision on circulation of pharmaceuticals, that is the state institution Pharmasupervision. In the table you also have the quotations from the Eurasian legislation according to which extraordinary inspections takes place, and the documents issued on the results are also the reports on inspections, and if there are any discrepancies, then they have to be overcome. If everything is fine, the proper certificate will be issued. At my last slide, you will find the reflection of the procedure of pharmaceutical inspection. Pharmaceutical inspections are carried out against the requirements of the key authority in Belarus for registration in the form of licensing of industrial pharmaceutical within the licensing of pharmaceutical activities on manufacturing pharmaceuticals, and when getting the certificate for the new period and for reflecting low quality pharmaceutical within the investigation. Pharmaceutical inspection is carried out based on the assignment and order by the Minister upon completion of 30 calendar days on finishing the inspection of the particular platform. The report shall be produced based and the opinion is drawn on compliance or non-compliance of the platform due to the requirements of the Eurasian Union. If there are any discrepancies, if there is non-compliance, there will be, or in other words, the manufacturer has the rights for eliminating the discrepancies. For that, the platform will get 60 days to overcome the difficulties, and based on the results of the presented information on eliminating the deficiencies, within the next 30 days, the Inspectorate will consider the information and draw the opinion on compliance or non-compliance of the platforms as to the GMP ES requirements. As a result of all that, the certificate will be issued or not issued. So, crowning all it up, let me say that the work has been carried out within close collaboration between the regulator of this country with the authorized organization on registration activities for pharmaceuticals with a center of due diligence in public health. So with that, I would like to finish my presentation. Thank you very much for your attention. Thank you very much, Tatiana. Are there any questions to her? If not, I would like to thank her once again. And our next speaker will be registration of medicines in the Republic of Belarus, which is important not only for the Indian companies but for Belarusian manufacturers as well. So the floor is given to the Deputy Director of the National One Proprietor Enterprise Center for Examination and Tests in Health Service, Ms. Olga Zhuravleva. Good morning, dear colleagues. I would like to thank the hosts for the chance of participating in such an important event. In my presentation, I'd rather focus on some issues which have been touched upon by Anton and Tatiana, and we'll be talking about the scenarios of registrations and the ways of registering medicines in Belarus. As it has been said, Belarus is a member of the Eurasian Economic Union, and therefore in Belarus we have to follow the procedure of registering the medicines according to that union, which in turn are regulated by the decision number 78 of the union. This decision approves the due diligence and tests for the medicines, and according to the agreement, the national procedure of registration has been completed in 2021. However, Eurasian Union stipulates the opportunity of regulating the registration of medicines at the national level in case when the item is designed for extraordinary situations. In the past, the Ministry of Health, realizing that the national procedures of registrations are very important for these countries and Eurasian procedure won't be sufficient, that opportunity was added on, and Belarus has developed a corresponding resolution on registering the strategically important. This is the story and the history on how that was carried out in setting strategically important items. It was said that this is a group of medicines designed for extraordinary situations. As to extraordinary situation, there is nothing new in Belarus compared with the other countries stipulating it, but we have expanded it a little bit, and into the definition we have included such an addenda, if I may say so, that extraordinary situation covers also the deficit of medicines in Belarus. This is the very short history on designing the resolution of strategically important pharmaceuticals. I will try to give you as much applications as possible, if I may say so, for you to orient yourselves easier in the Belarusian legislation. Totally, there are the three instruments regulating the national version of registering medicines in Belarus. I will be calling it strategical registration. The Ministry of Health set the list of strategically important medicines. The list, here is the list. So the list is determined by the regulation of the ministry. The number 116, this is the vast list which covers all the medicines which are very important. They are all included into the national formula. The navigation is simple, based on codes by other groups of pharmaceuticals which are related to strategic. So the manufacturer can review the resolution number 126 in order to see whether it is a priority or not before applying for the registration. Having acknowledged that it is a strategically important item, one should then get to the resolution 570 of the government on registration of the strategically important items. There are 4 scenarios totally. Further on, I will mention the most important, which will be most suitable for generics and for those products which will be offered by the Indian manufacturers. So, a few words on working with a site on tests in public health in order to make your lives easier when preparing the documents for the dossier. Please pay attention to the following. At the site there is the English language page. So you have the documents encircled. You go to the documents per se. Then you pre-select the Department of Medical of Medicines, and immediately in subtopic registration of medicines you will see the documents I'm talking about. They are in English, so you can start working with them immediately. Now, some administrative issues. Based on the experience, manufacturers, usually foreign manufacturers, and very often they are Indian companies. Among them, not all the Indian companies have their focal points in Belarus. They have to make an agreement based on the letter of attorney, and based on these contractual principles, the Belarusian legal entities should act as applicants. They present the documents, they pay, they communicate with the manufacturers. I believe this is the common way. The holder of the certificate is responsible for the efficiency and safety of the product, while the applicant provides administrative functions. Here are more details on what I have already told you about, and now I will be talking about the registration dossier. This is the set of documents which shall be presented by the applicant for the registration. In this country, the regulator is the Minister of Health. However, the technical works on expertise, on tests, shall be carried out by the center. So you present all your documents to the center physically. So the third document which will be useful to you for preparing your dossier is the resolution number 126 by the Ministry of Public Health, which stipulates the documents which are mandatory for the medicines. So, preliminary works include primary and specialized due diligence. Primary due diligence is assessing the documents, whether they are properly written or not, compliance to the names, trade names and marks which are set in Belarus. And the next stage will be the specialized due diligence. At this stage, there will be the assessment of the document as to the quality and the effectiveness and safety of this or that medicine. At this slide, you can find more details. There are the detailed description of the documents and the structure of the registration dossier. Registration dossier, as you are aware, has the administrative section as well as the reference to the documents of pharmaceutical supervision, the quality of the item, some specifics in forwarding the documents, strategic products. Some documents can be forwarded in the e-format. However, all the documents on quality have to be on paper. The information on pharma supervision, the data on preclinical and clinical tests can also be presented through e-carriers, but administrative documents shall be on paper. We are aware of the request from the manufacturers about the translation of the paper documents and presenting them in e-format. Please be reminded that there will be the presentation of documents of the dossier when you register according to the Eurasian Union rules. We understand the applicants to us. Such a method and such method will be simpler, but right now it requires technical adjustments and amending the legislation. Let me say that we are aware of the problem and we are very much interested in its quicker consideration. So both Eurasian procedure and the national procedure, the registration of strategical items, as we hope, will be transplanted into the e-format. In favor of a few words about the registration of the strategically important pharmaceuticals. Though in case of registration using this scenario, the product is registered in Belarus only, by itself the package of documents and the requirements are much easier if one follows the Eurasian Union procedure. It might be attractive for those manufacturers which in future anticipate entering those markets as well. Let me say it again. Strategical items are for the Belarusian market only. One of the facilities for the applicant and manufacturer might be the fact that when generating the package of documents, we accept the compliance certificate of the best practices issued by the regulator of the origin country. So, let me say it again. For this procedure, one doesn't need the inspection whether to do the compliance of the Belarusian GMP or Eurasian Union GMP. There is another stage in the process, and many of you, I have no doubts about it, that you know the procedures and the requirements to it. Now I'm talking about the quality control and appropriate testing for the strategically important medicines. I'm afraid that one slide is missing. Let me go back and focus on the procedures a little bit in detail. So, please look to the right. There are 4 procedures: standard, conventional, simplified, and conventional registration for the sphere of application. There are those registrations stipulated for the strategically important medicines. So, based on the report of Ms. Lakshmi, you know that a lot of Indian output are generics, and for that group, that will be the procedure for their registration. And you were absolutely right saying that many Indian products have been registered in in the countries with strong regulatory requirements. For those products, the procedure of the so-called simplified version might be appropriate. It means that will be one-way recognition of the registration already carried out with strong regulatory traditions or procedures. You will find the list, and of course there are European Union countries in the list, the United States, Canada, Australia, Japan, if I'm not mistaken. The list has already been expanded, and if a product manufactured in India, but this product has been registered in the list countries, then the simplified procedure will be possible for it. We are open, we are flexible. We may give you the free advice on the registration of the particular product. So, let us assume that we are now talking about registration of a generic. So we take the standard procedure, which without stop time, and when I'm saying stop time, the applicant has to produce extra materials and answer questions, and it may last 6 months. The better dossier is prepared, the more thoroughly and scrupulously it is generated, the fewer questions you will have, and the timing will be shorter. So if you take the simplified procedure, for the items which have been registered in the strong regulatory countries, when generating the dossier and the timely report from the regulator, the registration may last within 1 month only. For such procedures as the registration in the simplified procedure, conventional procedure, which I will focus on later, you won't need testing, quality control testing. It will be applicable only for those items which are within the standard procedure. So there will be no testing quality control as to the radiopharmacals or fun strategical preparation, psychotrope items and drug-containing items. Another opportunity for registering strategical items is the conventional state registration procedure. Anton has mentioned that currently the amendments are in progress as to that part of the resolution by the government. For conventional registration, it can be applied for biosimilars, so therefore it might be of interest to Indian applicants and manufacturers, because we are aware that there are many products in India referred to biosimilars. So here are the details on conventional registrations. The requirements. So the registration will be required will have the requirements. It will last for 1 year. The prerequisites are usually the continuation of current clinical testings, additional measures on pharma control, and mandatory risk control plan. So this is the statistics on the registration, and I believe Anton has already mentioned that. Within the first quarter of this year, we have seen the increase in number of applications against 2022 by 2.5 times, almost twofold, and there is much interest on behalf of applicants. This is a pleasure to ourselves, because this means meeting the requirements of Belarus in registered items. Thank you very much. So, and I see that there is a question. Good morning. My name is Maria. I'm the head of the registration. I'm the head of the Department of Registration of Med Company. Will it be possible to re-register the item according to the national procedure, which are included into the strategic? So you want our registration according to the national procedure will be over, so you can do it as soon as the national license is over. Anyway, you will be within the list. And that list will be valid until that list is necessary for Belarus. The procedure is autonomous. It doesn't have any correlations to the decisions made by the Eurasian Union. So we see the applications when there is the national registration. It will be expired, and then he or she goes to the registration of the strategic items. And this is one of the items which will be in the new draft, confirmation of the item as strategic, and they will be stipulated. So that will be the independent national registration procedure. You're welcome. We'll be happy to see you. I would like to thank Olga. And I would like to thank Her Excellency the Ambassador, Mr. Aloka Raja, for his personal participation. Thank you very much, sir. And we'll continue. One of the most promising items for the collaboration are investment projects in pharmaceutical sector in Belarus. For the information, for the presentation about the investment magnitude in Belarus, the floor is given to the representative of the National Agency on Privatization and Investment in Belarus, Mr. Dudarev.
Уважаемые коллеги, гости, я бы хотела поблагодарить организаторов и участников за участие в форуме.
India is a gem of South Asia, and I'm honored to present you today key features of our hidden gem of Europe, our beautiful country, Belarus, its investment climate, its economy, and to begin with, one of the main advantages, which was mentioned by His Excellency, is our geographical location. We are in the middle of two major economic unions, the European Union and Eurasian Economic Union, and being member of latest, Belarus has also access to the market of over 180 million consumers of Russia, Armenia, Kazakhstan, and Kyrgyzstan. And so if you're produced in Belarus, all that you have produced in Belarus can be transported to any other location of Eurasian Economic Union with no custom duties and charges, which is very beneficial. So Belarus has also favorable investment and tax condition, good infrastructure, and preferences. We trade with over 118 countries all over the globe. Last 2 years, we saw stable economic growth despite of the out-of-control difficulties, and we are going to keep the pace over the following years too. We set ambitious goal to reach GDP level to $100 billion by 2025. Obviously, all this requires quite an aggressive investment policy and export policy, and super comfortable conditions for doing business. Last few years, we saw interest from foreign investors, and significant amount of investments were used to implement investment project of the Belarusian nuclear power plant, Slavkali mining and processing complex, and complex for hydrocracking heavy oil at the Moser Oil Refinery, and other significant investment projects. For the financial sector, the financial and credit system of Belarus comprises the budget segment, the banking system, and financial assets of extra budgetary funds, enterprises, institutions, organizations, and citizens. We also show quite a good rank at corruption, which is very good for doing business for the entrepreneurs and foreign companies as well. But what's most importantly is that we consider our people, Belarusians, our main asset of the economy. And according to the UNDP rankings, Belarus is in the group of countries with high human potential, which is no surprise because 98% of population have a professional education. We have more than 50 universities through Belarus, and also very qualified technicians and IT specialists let our country enter the top rankings in e-government development index. I would like to point out that we hold the first place in the world in access rate in population to medical service from year to year. And now I would like to point out the key feature for business to reduce its costs and consolidate special business conditions. We here have the list of preferential regimes which foreign companies can enjoy and operate in, and now I'll talk more about them. But first, I'd like to point out our well-developed legislation. In 2013, Belarus introduced a law on investments, which aligns with international principles. And according to the law, foreign and Belarusian investors are granted equal rights in terms of business, all business activities. And we signed 66 agreements for promotion and mutual protection of investments, and 74 agreements on avoidance of double taxation. Since 2012, our country has been a member of Multilateral Investment Guarantee Agency. So one of the preferential regime is high-tech park. Belarus is famously known by its IT production, and there is a special preferential regime for that. A company can become a resident of HTP by placing its business anywhere in Belarus. Because of recently introduced legislation on the IT sector, Belarus became known as the Silicon Valley of Europe. And at this point, we're somehow alike India, which is also famous for its IT specialists. Another preferential regime is a Great Stone Park, industrial park. Investments from all over the world can enjoy benefits of the park. This is the only place in Belarus when you can buy a land plot. And residents of industrial park are free from profit tax for the first 10 years. And after that, profit tax is reduced by half from general rate. Investors there are also exempt from land tax and real estate tax. Currently, there are more than 16 residents from different countries, and from Germany, Israel, United States, and other countries. There are 6 free economic zones located in 6 regions of our country. They are established for export-oriented production and located in specific territories. These free economic zones provide special beneficial regime for residents, such as exemption from land tax, real estate, and profit tax. Today, it is possible to become a resident of the free economic zone if you invest up to 500,000 euros. Free economic zones contributed significantly to the country's net FDI inflows and plays its role in export formation. We also has move into latest created regimes, which is Bremena Orsha, in the districts in the north of our country. It is a major road junction linking highways and railways from Europe to Russia. It also includes a big number of industrial enterprises focused on manufacturing. Business is granted certain benefits here. It may be called as a multimodal logistic platform founded to operate with in-transit flow of cargo and organized production, assembly and repair of different consumer goods. But also, yes, small towns and rural areas is also one of the preferential regimes. This can be any location with under 60,000 people living there. If you place a business there, you will be exempted from profit tax and real estate tax, as well as custom duties and charges for initial equipment imported for the needs of the investment projects. There are also, beside the preferential regimes, we offer for the investors an option to conclude investment agreement with Belarus. It provides certain other benefits and additional government support for investment projects and gives certain flexibility to choose or to request the exact assistance from the state to do business even more successful in Belarus. Of course, the investment project should be available and show some certain interest for the Republic of Belarus as well. This is my favorite page so far, because it shows success stories and big players that has chosen Belarus as a reliable partner. Here are the companies which can brag about cooperating with Belarus. And we are really looking forward to seeing Indian companies in the pharmaceutical industry in this list. In this regard, we as a National Agency of Investment and Privatization are the starting point for foreign business to discover our country. We work as a one-step shop basis and accompany projects at all stages of implementation, including post-investment support. All this in order to facilitate an investor to conduct and develop its business in Belarus. I'd also like to invite you to take a look and to visit our investor roadmap internet portal on our website. You can find different locations of the investment opportunities, projects on the map of Belarus, as well as statistics from different regions of our country. You can even compare advantages of different territories, and highly recommend to visit our investinbelarus.by page to discover more. So that said, on behalf of National Agency of Investment and Privatization, I wish you fruitful cooperation here in Forum in Minsk, and thank you for your attention. Спасибо.
Thank you, Olesya, for the presented information, and I hope that it will be beneficial to our potential Indian partners for investing into Belarus. If there are any questions, you are most welcome. If no, then please be reminded that in the B2B format in the afternoon, you will have your chance of asking a question. So, for expert capacity of Belarus, we would love to listen to the head of the department on working with the Asian countries, Ms. Angelina Livkovich. Дамы и господа, я вас приветствую. Я представляю Международное агентство
represent the system of international business development of the Republic of Belarus. First of all, I will present some things about export potential of our country. After that, I will provide some interesting facts about our projects, and we will be happy to discuss with potential partners all these projects. According to the slide, there are some numbers which present that the Belarus is a country with the great ground and background. First of all, we are second place in the world export of potash. The second thing, which is extremely important, included the top 20 world exporters of wood lumber. We are third and fourth place in the world export butter and cheese accordingly. Also included the top 5 world exporters of flax and flax-based fabrics. Also, I want to tell that our company has our own analytical center, which provides some interesting numbers, which you can find on the slides. Moreover, we are great experts of tractors and agricultural machinery, also electric and gasoline provided public transport. The third thing, this is the construction road and municipal machinery, and underground urban rail and trams. If some people from India interested to get some analytical resources, you can discuss with me after my presentation or text to my email. As our colleagues from investment agency presented, we have the great opportunities to invest to Belarus. This is the free and special economic zones in the Republic of Belarus, and High Technology Park and Industrial Park Greystone, who are also our partners and our partner especially in e-commerce industry. Also, I want to tell that the Belarus has some significant export positions. We are great expert in petrochemistry, mechanical engineering, metallurgy, woodworking, also some pharmacy producing industry, light industry, dairy, meat products, furniture, glass, fiberglass, cement, and also especially potash. Also, I want to tell that our national resources is represented, yes, by potash, salt, and halide building materials. The second thing, which is present by our country, this is the low cost of labor resources. And we have great logistics opportunities because of our place. This is the transport, communication, energy, financial and industrial infrastructure. Especially we are working under the sanctions. Moreover, if we tell about Belarusian as a great place opportunity, this is the great partner for India nowadays, especially as a B2B, B2C, also P2P in all areas. We have a great example as an agency. We work with some main companies which is located in India in great cases, and we will be happy to find new importers to help our Belarusian farm industry and other industry with some import positions, especially critical import positions. Now I want to tell some words about agency, who we are. The agency is the coordinator of global international business coordination of the Republic of Belarus. You can scan QR code, which is presented on the slide, and find more information on our website. First of all, we analyze in foreign markets opportunities for importers and exporters who is non-resident and also resident of the Republic of Belarus. We are organizing and supporting the execution of foreign trade contracts, especially provide some international contracts under the sanctions and some financial supporting too. We support system for certification and registration of Belarusian product in foreign markets. The fourth thing, this is the branding, country marketing, and positioning the positive image of Belarus in the foreign markets. And finally, we are creating a system for promoting Belarusian products and use of markets with using open book principle. And now I will focus on our agency projects, which is potential for finding new contacts and Indian market too. We work with international certification regulation. We have our own department and help to our Belarusian producers with these procedures. Also, we work with foreign companies when they want to go and create their own businesses in Belarus. Promotion on online trading platforms. The Agency of International Business Development is an official partner of Alibaba.com. That's why we want to develop also e-commerce platforms from India. We're interested in this project and I will be happy to find some people from India to be as a key part and official partner of some Indian e-platforms, for example, Walmart. Also, we work with positioning, as I told previously. Made in Belarus is our project, which we support with our Ministry of International Affairs, Ministry of Economics of the Republic of Belarus, and some experts to provide their products on the foreign markets with the shared brand Made in Belarus. Also, we provide some financial and non-financial support for small and medium-sized enterprise. For example, we guarantee a support mechanism, especially work with some commercial banks in the Republic of Belarus. We work with crowdfunding platforms and digital platform for doing business. Especially, we help our Belarusian enterprises to work with some European and Asian, African companies and work with the financial instruments which can't follow these instruments due to the fact the sanctions. We have our own factories with the Greenfield project. This is the wood keeping production. And also we find some investors. If you're also interested in this project, I will be happy to answer some questions. And the last thing, we have our own platform, which we work nowadays. This is the single window of foreign trade activities. You can visit our website, eximagency.by, and find some information. This is my personal contact. My full name is Angelina Levkovich. I'm the head of Department for Relations with Asian countries and some trade commercial contracts. I will be happy to ask for all your questions and will be happy to do it after the lunch. Thank you so much, dear audience.
Благодарим большое Ангелину Игоревну. Может быть, есть вопросы?
Are there any questions to her? If no, it means that either you keep them for be to be session or the presentation was absolutely exhaustive. Please be reminded that in the afternoon, in the same place, you will have the chance of asking the questions to the speakers and communicate in the B2B format. According to the agenda, now we'll have business lunch, which will take place at the place where we had coffee break, and there as well you will have the chance to talk. Please be invited for lunch. So, and with that, I would like to finish the official part of our venue. So we are waiting for you in the afternoon.